Hi, my name is Doc Hendley. I am the author of this year's common reading book, Wine to Water. I hope you enjoyed the book, and if you didn't get a chance to see me live right here on campus, here's your opportunity with this video. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, we're going to start. Who am I? I'm Dr. Douglas Robertson, the Dean of Undergraduate Education, and the Common Reading Program is one of our featured programs we're very proud of. So I want to welcome you here. The program has grown significantly and has always been well received. So I hope you're enjoying the experience. And it always includes a lecture. We try to pick a book that meet a number of criteria, but also one of the criterion is that the author be alive and a good speaker, and Doc Hendley qualifies on both. This summer, 4,600 first-year students received the common reading book, Wine to Water, and were asked to read it before classes began. That's how the program works, so that you can have a common intellectual experience and a common experience. Doc Hendley is the founder and president of Wine to Water. In 2003, he dreamed up the concept of the organization while bartending and playing music in nightclubs around Raleigh, North Carolina. I have to hear you play. The first fundraiser was held in January of 2004, and by August of that year, Doc was living in Darfur, Sudan, installing water systems for victims of the government that supported genocide. When Doc returned home in August of 2005, the haunting memories of what he had seen in Darfur drove him to continue building the organization he started 2 years before. I'm going to stop the introduction right there because I realized while I was reading it that I neglected something very important, and that was to acknowledge and thank the committee that chooses this book and puts together this event. So put the pause button on right there. Each year we get a number of recommendations on what the book should be, and a group of people review all those books and pick a book for you. So I'd like those people, if you're here, to please stand so we can give you a shout out here. Thank you. And Dr. Valerie Morgan leads that group, and so we're very grateful to you and all the work that you do to make this a success. And in selecting this book, which is fascinating, as you can tell from the beginning of the introduction, right? Do you remember where we were? We were in Darfur, okay? In 2007, after working 2 jobs and volunteering his time over 3 years, Wine to Water became an official nonprofit organization, and Doc's dream finally became a reality. In 2009, Doc was selected as a CNN hero, which is a big deal. He's worked on projects in 16 different countries around the world, including Haiti after the devastating earthquake in 2010. He's saved thousands of lives by providing humanity's most basic need, clean drinking water. Just such a basic thing can make such a difference. Doc lives in Boone, North Carolina with his wife Amber and his 2 sons, who are 5 and 3, I just learned, and keep Doc on track. Balancing family life and the demands of building Wine to Water, Doc Hendley continues to travel to underdeveloped, war-ridden nations, working in the field to bring clean water to those in need. Reading Wine to Water this summer inspired a group of you, students at the BBC campus, to form a Wine to Water club. And I understand the president and vice president are here. Would you stand? The president and vice president of the Wine to Water club. There they are, over there. Way to go. That's fantastic. Thank you. They worked with other students in the first-year experience classes at BBC to raise $1,200. That's great for Wine to Water. And their efforts will continue throughout the year to support Wine to Water. And the club is open to all FIU students, so spread the word. Would you please join me in welcoming Doc Hendley?
What's happening? All right, I got a quick video I'm going to start with, if I can figure my computer out. 1.1 billion people in the world don't have access to clean water. My efforts are going to be a drop in the bucket. But if I had never taken that step because it was too big of a problem, then we wouldn't be anywhere right now.
Gracias, señores.
In December of 2003 is when the idea came for the organization Wine to Water. We were very involved with water filtration around the world. When we take the water from the street and we put it in here, the water that's in the bottom is not going to be making you feel sick to your stomach anymore. February of last year, I get a phone call from someone in the CNN Heroes department saying that I've been nominated, which was completely shocking.
From Boone, North Carolina, meet Doc Hendley. Through his Wine to Water program, this bartender provides clean, sustainable water to thousands worldwide.
This ceiling that we were kept hitting over and over, that we can only tell this amount of people about this water crisis, was just completely shattered. Everything from when you're nominated to getting through the top 10 to being in the Kodak Theater could not have made me and everybody that was around me feel more special. But I'm very proud to be a part of this group.
For many trapped in the rubble of downtown Port-au-Prince, the struggle to live continues.
The earthquake happened in Haiti. Immediately I went down there and to figure out where I could be plugged in.
She can't get well if she doesn't have anything to drink.
Obviously, you can see it's something that I'm very passionate about now. Sorry, I never, yeah. In 5 years, my goal is to have reached 1 million people for clean water. If you find something you're passionate about, I don't care who you are, you will make a difference. My name is Doc Hendley. I'm a 2009 CNN hero. I started the organization Wine to Water. So I got to be completely honest with y'all and tell you that I always tell people that I have a hard time starting out with the video that I just showed you, and it's because CNN's job when they made it was to make me look as squeaky clean and perfect as possible. And the problem with that is I'm about as imperfect a person that you'll ever meet in your entire life. I'm about as average and maybe even below average of a person that you'll ever meet in your entire life. And because of that view of myself that I've always had, I had a bit of a difficult time growing up. I had a family that was around me that was made up of extremely exceptional people in one way, shape, or form. And just to give you an idea, so y'all know that I'm not pulling your leg, as far as athletics go, I have a family of like insane athletes. My granddaddy, he played professional football for the Pittsburgh Steelers. My uncle played for the Atlanta Falcons. And so when I tried to play football, I knew that I would never really be able to reach the level that they reached. In fact, I learned pretty quickly that I would never really be able to get my butt off the bench because I was not really that strong or that fast. So I stayed on the bench with football, and then I started playing a little bit of basketball. I enjoyed that. And then my younger brother, by about 5 years, he turned out to be 6'9". So you can imagine like I'm 17, 18-year-old kid, and my like 12-year-old brother's dunking on me in the backyard. It's not really good for your self-esteem. So he went on to play. He's playing pro ball in Europe, and actually he's getting ready to go to the Boston Celtics training camp in the next couple weeks and may make the Celtics. So never made it there with basketball. And then I thought, well, for God's sakes, I can play golf. I mean, it's a stick and a ball. I mean, how hard can golf be? So I started playing a little bit of golf, enjoyed the game. And then my cousin who I grew up with, he was really good. He actually is on the PGA Tour right now. His name is Lucas Glover. He won the U.S. Open about 3 or 4 years ago. He's doing awesome. And so I really quickly realized I would never be the athlete that my family, expects. So then I thought, well, maybe school. Maybe I could impress everybody with my, scholastic abilities. I also would fail miserably there too. I quickly found out that average people like me, we make average grades, and they call C average for a reason. There's a lot of people out there that make them, and I'm one of those guys. And I would look at my sister, though. She'd come home with her report card, and she would literally be crying if she made a B. Like, she would cry, sad tears if she made a B. And I would get my report card. If there was a B on my report card, I would literally cry tears of joy that I actually made a B. And so I learned that I wasn't going to impress anybody with my schooling ability. And a lot of it was later in life I learned I don't learn so well just sitting at a desk and having some teacher preach at me and then I'm expected to spit all that stuff back on a test on Friday. I don't learn that way. I'm not built that way. I have to see it and touch it and feel it and smell it to understand it. So I didn't do good in a classroom, and so I constantly felt like a failure in school and athletics. And then a whole nother side of my life, my old man was a preacher man growing up, and I don't know if any of y'all got friends that are in the church world, or maybe your dads are or whatever, but my dad was, and what came along with that was a lot of what I thought growing up just meant that there was a lot of rules and regulations that I had to follow, a lot of things that I couldn't do, and maybe a few things that I could do, but more things that I wasn't allowed to do. And I don't know, you might can tell by looking at me, but I ended up being the black sheep of my family, I guess is a nice way to put it. And for me, if you put rules in front of me, the way that I'm put together is like I make it my life's mission to see how quickly and uniquely I can break every single one of those rules. And so I constantly felt growing up that I never measured up on a whole spiritual side of life with my father, that I never was good enough because I couldn't figure out how to follow the rules. And so for me, my mentality, all through my younger years, the vast majority of my life really, I've just had this view of myself that I didn't have the ability to do anything with my life, that I was a nobody. And so I guess I really embraced that mentality of being a nobody. I dropped out of my first semester of college when I was in Clemson, and I've been an avid motorcycle rider most of my life, so I hopped on my motorcycle and I took off across the country, and I would find myself living in barns sometimes and might have a job shoveling horse poop to make ends meet. And I just kind of wandered around the country, embraced the idea, fine, I'm a nobody, I have nothing to offer the world, and that's okay. That's just life. So what happened? Why am I up here today? What changed? I don't really know. I don't really have a good answer for that, but I can tell you exactly when it happened. I remember I finally come off the road. My mama was begging me to come back to North Carolina and get a degree. She's like, if you can figure out a way to get a college degree, maybe you can do something other than shovel horse crap the rest of your life. So I came back home and I started to go back to school. And one of the skills I actually picked up on the road, I started to learn how to be a server in a restaurant. And then I started working my way up, and I learned the skills of bartending. And to be honest with y'all, I came back to Raleigh, and I started bartending my way to pay my way through school. And I actually really loved that job. I really loved that life, not because of the late nights and all that kind of stuff, but I really loved the people that I got to meet in my bar. I loved at happy hour at 5 o'clock. All the people would come in off of work, and you'd have a CEO of some company in a white collar sitting next to some blue collar construction worker, next to a school teacher, next to somebody that's just lost their job, and nobody was looking up or down at anybody else. Nobody's turning their nose down at somebody because they got a different job. Everybody was there to forget about their day, just have a good time, talk about life, talk about politics, talk about sports, whatever. It was an even playing field at my bar. And I really loved that about that industry, but I also knew that maybe that's not what I was going to do with the rest of my life, but I had no idea what that would be. Well, I remember I'm also a bit of a musician. I play some music. I just got done with I play a lot of Johnny Cash and like Merle Haggard, like old country stuff. Now I just got done playing a Johnny Cash gig, and one of my best friends in the world, y'all know her from the book if you read it, her name's Tasha Sullivan. She came and sat down with me at the bar at one night, and she kind of looked over at me and she's like, is this it? Is this all you're going to do with your life? Is maybe somehow finish your college degree and just keep playing some music and bartending your way through life? And I'm like, yep, that's all I got. I think that's all I have to offer. And she didn't laugh or smile. She just looked at me and she said, you're better than this. You have more to offer this world than what you're offering it right now. She kind of got a little mad. She threw her money down. She walked out the door. I remember sitting there by myself thinking for a while, well, I don't know, what if she's right? What if I can do something with my life, And so I remember I asked off of work, a couple weeks off the bar. I had 2 weeks off of school because it was Christmas break, 2003. I went home to hang out with my parents, and y'all know, if you've read the book, the night it happened was really weird. I was kind of in between sleep and out of sleep, and I just had that phrase on the screen, wine to water. It was like stuck in my head. And I first thought, well, maybe this is a cool idea for a song, so I woke up and wrote it down. And then when I looked at the words on the page, I kind of got all nervous feeling inside, thinking, I think it's supposed to be more than just a song. So I went down to my parents' computer and I started searching, trying to look up some information on Google, and I found out when I started searching about water, I looked at those words on my page, and I felt like I know plenty about water. I don't need to be looking anything about wine because I'm a bartender, but this other word, water, at the end, what if I'm supposed to know something about water that I don't know about? So I remember writing in the computer, something like water issues, water problems, water crisis, whatever. And what filled that screen is what changed my life. At that time, the number was that 1.1 billion people in the world don't have access to clean drinking water. And I remember staring at that number and kind of thinking, like, that can't be right, because I think there's only 6 or 7 billion people in the world anyway. So if over one of those billion doesn't have clean drinking water like I have coming right out of my tap, I think I would have heard about this problem by now. So I'm thinking, there's no way these figures are right, but I kept researching and kept looking. Sure enough, over 1 billion people. And then I found out from a report from the World Health Organization, the WHO, that water-related illnesses kill more children in the world than anything else. And then it listed the other 3. HIV/AIDS was number 2, which I knew plenty about from my favorite musicians and their red campaigns. Malaria was number 3. I knew about that. In school, I learned that malaria felled more soldiers in Vietnam than bullets. So I knew that was pretty bad. And then the last was tuberculosis, and it said after that, water kills more than all those combined together. Combined. Yet receives less than 20% of the funding in the research, while the others receive over 80%. So that was the first night I started reading these things, and I stayed up the entire night, and I took the pad and the pencil that I had wrote down wine to water on that was going to become a song, and I changed it up, and I started jotting down the concept for this organization that we have now. And in the beginning, it wasn't that maybe we would be where we are today. Now we're actually 16 different countries. We've helped over 250,000 people get access to clean drinking water. In the beginning, my thought was, maybe I can put on an event. I'll call it a wine to water event. That's what stuck in my head. And maybe I could just do one thing right with my life. Because everything I looked at in the past, I felt like was a complete failure that I had tried to do. So I was like, well, maybe I could just do one thing well, one thing right. Maybe I can host one event, maybe raise some money, and maybe I can use that money. And I'm reading about these women that don't have clean water to give their children, and a lot of times they have to bury their kids before their 5th birthday because of water. So maybe I can help one mother get a water filter or a well, or maybe if I do well, maybe I can get one village, a new well. That's it. And so it took me about a month and a half with the help of Tasha. We put on the first event, and y'all know we raised about $5 or $6 grand. It was awesome. And then I had another opportunity for an event a month later from another bar in town, and we raised another $5 or $6 grand. And the ball started rolling, money started coming in. And I got to a point where I started freaking out, like, how in the world am I going to make that money equal this? Like, how am I going to make the money we're raising, which is significant? I'd never seen an account with that much money in it before. How do we turn it into clean water? And after a lot of thought, I decided, it'd be great to get to be the guy that gets to go travel in the world and save little kids' lives, but I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'd take probably most of that money and spend it on plane tickets and hotels and, I don't even, in training. And so, why don't I just find another organization that's already established? Why reinvent the wheel and just give the money to them? And I'll just go back to the bar. I'll keep raising this money. That was my thought in the beginning. And those of you that read the book, that I got the opportunity to meet a guy named Kenny Isaacs at this organization in North Carolina called Samaritan's Purse. Phenomenal group. I read that over 92% of their money actually went to programs, which was important to me. And so I went to have a meeting with them just to make sure that I could use the funding that I give to them and have it all go to water. And I remember I went to his office the first day. I was really nervous. He comes in and I'm like, I haven't really met with somebody this important before. He's all dressed up and buttoned up with a nice tie on, and I probably had a T-shirt and jeans with my tattoos hanging out. And I'm like, Mr. Isaacs, my name's Doc Hendley. I'm a bartender in Raleigh, and I've raised like tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm just here to give that money today to you, sir. And he's like, slow down, Doc. Take it easy. You're a bartender in Raleigh. You've raised a decent amount of money, and you want to give the organization this money to our organization. I'm like, yes, that's what I meant. And he's like, you're not taking any for yourself, skimming off the top, keeping any, putting any in your pocket? I'm like, no, sir. And he said, well, why are you doing this? Why would you do that? And I remember thinking for a little while and just saying, you know, I'm not really sure why, but I just know for the first time in my life, I don't feel like a failure. You know, for the first time in my life, I feel like that maybe I have the ability to have an impact on the world. So if it's okay, I'm just going to go right back to the bar. I'm going to raise this money. I'm going to keep giving it to you. And he said, I'll tell you what, I got a better idea. Why don't you come work for me? Why don't you finish your degree? I had a couple classes left. And how about you let me send you anywhere in the world you want to go, and I'll teach and train you how to do this work. And I almost fell out of my chair. I said, yes, of course, that'd be awesome. He said, look, you've already figured out kind of how to raise the money, which is great. I can give you the training in the field, that knowledge, and then when you come home, you can put those two together and keep creating this thing called Wine to Water, this dream that you've been telling me about. So I agreed, and he said, well, where do you want to go? And we ended up going back and forth, and I just said, you know, I'm not really sure about the world. It's a pretty big place. He had this big map on his wall. I'm like, if you'll just send me to the worst place that you know of, we'll call it even, you know. And his first thought was, he raised his eyebrow. He's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, sir, I'm sure. And my thought process with that was that I've never really viewed myself as the most intelligent person in the world. So even if you send me to the worst place, I'm pretty sure that I can have a good impact at the worst place in the world, even a guy like me, you know. And so he said, all right, it'd be probably between this place, Afghanistan. You see in the news a lot. There's a war happening there. There's a water crisis happening there. But there's a team on the ground that we've had for a while. They can help you figure the ropes out. There's this other place in the western region of Sudan. It's in sub-Saharan Africa. There's a civil war going on there right now. There's a genocide happening. These people's government is systematically extinguishing them because of their ethnicity. And also, on top of water crisis, there's nobody there on the ground for us. So you'll be one of the first ones in a team of people, and you're just going to have to figure it out. And this place is called Darfur. It's in Sudan. I'm like, okay, I don't even know what a Darfur is, one. Two, it's in the middle of the desert. It's going to be like 110, 120 degrees plus. Three, there's a war and a genocide going on. And, oh, yeah, I'm going to be alone. Like, desert, war, genocide, alone. Yeah, that's the worst place in the world. You can send me there. So, 6 months after my first event, so it's all going to happen pretty quickly. From February 2004 was my first event to August of 2004, I was on a plane to this place here. This is the first camp that I worked in. You know, those of you that read the book know that's Marla Camp. And I remember this day vividly. This is one of the first days I got there. I had this little point-and-shoot camera, and I snapped this picture because it's the first time that I actually saw women and children walking to get their water. Before, I would see it on the computer and read about it. But this day I got there, and I decided, well, maybe I'll just follow them and see where they're going. So hours later, I'm dying in the desert heat, pulling myself through the sand like you see on those old cartoons, like try to grab it. And they're just walking, keep on walking. They finally get to this water source that the water looks more like the coffee that I drank this morning. Filthy. You can see by their buckets it's not clean. And they bring that water back, and these women here, they're forced to give that water to their youngest children. I just couldn't believe it. This is the first time I actually saw it and walked it and lived it myself. And I was blown away. And in the beginning, I couldn't, y'all know I couldn't afford a drilling machine and to drill a nice brand new well right there in the middle of the camp like I wanted to, like was probably needed. So we put up a big water tank, a water bladder. We began to truck water back and forth so the kids and the women, they wouldn't have to walk so far to get water, because also that's when bad things happen in a genocide to women and children, when they walk out of the confines, the safety of these camps. And so I was excited, that day, all the kids were super excited, and they surrounded me and my guys, and we're all, chanting the word water. And it was one of the coolest days of my life to see what happened when you actually bring a community clean water for the first time. And so my work there Marla was very pivotal, very monumental in motivating me to keep going. But about a month after working there, I finally was able to partner with another organization on a drilling machine. We were getting ready to bring that rig to drill a brand new well right in the middle of that camp. And we found out the government had come in the day before with their helicopter gunships, and they bombed the camp. And then the Janjaweed moved in behind them, started, killing what they could find left and keeping the people away. And later on, they ended up shooting up our water tank with their machine guns. Then they found my driver, and they pulled my driver of the truck out, and they beat him nearly to death. And that's when I first realized that this work that I've now fallen in love with, this isn't going to be as easy maybe as I had hoped it would be. But I continued working, and I'll probably know, from the book that I worked solely in United Nations no-go zones, where they were held by the rebels, the guys that were fighting back against the government, and that's these guys that you see on the screen. They held these regions that they were saying, this does not belong to the government. Our people are going to live here, and we're no longer going to allow the government and their bad guys, the hooligan, the guys called the Janjaweed, which in the local language means the evil horseman. We're no longer going to allow you, Janjaweed, and the government to come and just kill and rape our women and children, whatever you want, just because of our color of our skin. So they had these strongholds that they would fight to keep. But inside these areas, the United Nations would say none of our people or related organizations could go work there because it was too dangerous to work there. But there were large populations of people in camps living in there that weren't being reached. So I decided to work in these areas, and I found out these guys, even though they're the good guys because they're fighting for a cause, they actually would kill and kidnap just as many aid workers as the bad guys because they didn't trust anybody. And plus, they can make some money if they kidnap you and hold you for ransom, then they can, fund their fighting. But then I started watching how some of these organizations work, that they'd go into an area near one of these rebel areas, they'd kick food off the back of a truck for a month's supply for this one village, get it out, and then they would leave as fast as they could. They were out of there a few hours later. Or if they're a well drilling group, they'd go bring their drilling machine, they'd pop a well on the ground, and they were out of there as quick as they could. And I was like, I'm not a genius here. I don't have all the master's degrees and PhDs in public policy and international development and what all else these folks got. But to me, that's just common sense. Of course they don't trust us. Well, nobody's ever taken the chance to get to know these guys. For me, I just understood that concept as a bartender. That's a simple concept as a bartender. It doesn't matter how fast you can make a drink and slide over the bar and be like, have a nice night, see you later. That's not why I prided myself in my bartending abilities. Because actually I was a terrible bartender. My drinks were terrible. I always made my Bloody Marys too hot and spicy. I couldn't never figure it out. What I loved about my job wasn't have anything to do with the drinks. It was about the people. It was about the relationships that I got to create every single day at my job. That's why I love my job. So I try to look at this the same way. Well, what if I can go and meet these guys and hang out with them and just make friends with them? So I did things a little different. I found this guy, this picture from the book, but this is actually a rebel group called the JEM, the Joint Equality Movement. And this is one of the first ones I've had connection with. And I went to the guy to the left of me who's got a big, satellite phone around his neck. I remember saying something like, Salam alaikum, alhamdulillah, ana dok. I went through the greetings, and then I brought my translator over and said, is it cool if we go to the market and maybe just have some lunch together? Or if you don't have anywhere to be, I don't have anywhere to be. I'd love to come back to your village and hang out for a few days and just get to know you and your guys and your family, your wife and your kids. And you see this guy, he looking at me. I have no guns, no nothing. He's looking at all his guys, armed all the way up and down, and they're like, sure, why not? He brightened up, this big smile, and say, nam nam shukran jizera, yes, thank you very much. And next thing you know, we're hopping in their truck, going back to his home village. Later on, we're slaughtering a goat, and we're having a big feast and a big party. He's teaching me how to do it in the Islamic law and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you saw the neck here, and then the blood goes everywhere. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm gonna eat that later. It's gonna be awesome. And we had an awesome time. And it was cool to see this man, not this just hardcore rebel leader, but you'd see him then as a father when his kids came around. Or you'd hang out with him and you see him as a husband when his wife would come hang out and meet you, or as a man with his other guys. And I learned something really important that day, that this work that we're doing with just water or anything that you do in life is not about the thing that you're there to do, the task that you have to do that day. Life is about the people that are in it, that make it worth living. And so I really enjoyed that time, and just that simple act of sitting down and sharing a meal and sleeping in their village, not having to be back in my safe little air-conditioned office in this other village, showing them that I would be willing to stay with them where they are, allowed me to gain their trust. And next thing I know, he's using that phone on his neck, and he's calling the other rebel commanders in some other areas saying, give this guy free passage. Let him come in. He's going to work. He's going to help our people out. He's going to help us. He's not a spy. He's a good dude. Don't kidnap him or put a bullet in his head, And so I was able to work completely in United Nations no-go zones because of a simple fact that I looked at this job more than just drilling wells, that I looked at it because of the people that I was working with and the relationships that were built along the way. One of the big things that we did all throughout the desert was this right here. I learned that over 60% of the wells in sub-Saharan Africa are broken. I didn't have all the money for a nice, fancy, brand new drilling machine, but I started looking at some of these wells, and I'm like, I bet you I can figure out how to fix those things if there's still water down there. So me and a group of local guys that you see there, we got trucks, loaded them with local well drilling equipment or well pump equipment just to see if we could, change out some of the parts. And we pulled the guts out, and we would just find every time the pump's soaking wet, so that means there's water there. And then we'd look at this little pump and see there's a little rubber seal that's all chewed up. So we replace that, and then the pump works. Or there's some pipes that have holes in them, and so the pressure wasn't enough for the water to reach the surface. So we replaced the pipes, and it's working. So over half of the wells in this area are broken. And you mean to tell me that all it would take sometimes is $40, $50, $60, $70 here and there to fix them, versus the cost of $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 or even more dollars to drill a brand new one? Yet there's organizations still all over the desert popping brand new wells everywhere. I don't have that kind of money, but I bet you I can keep doing this. So we got really excited. We were fixing hundreds of wells all over the desert. And then I had this other idea, like, well, gosh, these wells that I'm fixing, they're just going to break again. So what am I really doing? I'm not going to be here forever, and these people are going to be stuck with a broken well again one day. But what if I can bring resources and tools and training to these communities? And what if I could make a little water committee there and teach and train them how to fix their own wells, how to fix their own problems so they can take care of themselves and not always rely on somebody to come and save them? Wouldn't that make more sense? So we started towards the end of my time in Darfur doing that work, and that would be like the foundation for all the work with Wine to Water. When I saw what it would do to a community when you can give them the courage and the empowerment to take care of their own problems instead of them having to rely on America or somebody to come save them, it changed everything for me. And I got really excited to come home and do this kind of work in all the other different countries that I dreamed about traveling to. But before I would leave Darfur, I guess I had a few more lessons I needed to learn. One was I had some run-ins with these bad guys, the Janjaweed, a few times. One time they stopped me and my guys as we were heading to a rebel area. They pulled all my guys out of the truck and they smashed them up with the guns and were beating them pretty good. And basically by the end of it, they stole all our stuff, stripped some of my guys down naked, and they basically said, if we ever see you coming to help our enemies again, we're going to kill you. And I remember going back being like, oh man, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think they mean what they're going to say. And then like a couple months later, there was a cholera outbreak in one of these areas, and I just couldn't not do anything. So me being the incredibly intelligent person that I am, decided to go right back through that same road in the same area. And I went, and I was able to get through and start doing some chlorine tablet distributions. And on my way back out of the rebel area, the Janjaweed saw them in a village, and instead of being in the middle of the road, they normally, when I'd run into them, they'd stop us, they'd shoot their guns off, they'd stop our vehicles and pull us out or whatever. This time they were like hidden behind like trees and rocks. And so I'm kind of like, this is a little different than what I'm used to, Do I need to stop and try to reason with them, or do I just go? And so my instincts kind of took over. I just like hit the gas, and right when I hit the gas, I had my window down and my arm out the window. I was driving the lead vehicle, and the guy that was right next to me behind this little rock or tree or whatever, he shot his gun right when I hit the gas, and I felt the blast from that gun barrel like on my face, the heat and the shock wave from it. I guess the bullet, it didn't hit me in the head because I'm still here. It must have just gone right in front of me or right behind me, I don't know. And then all the other guys started shooting, and their bullets are like, boom, swing, swing. Like you could hear them like smashing through the windows and panging through the metal. And they shot out my gas tank in that vehicle. They shot out the tire of the guy behind me. And a lot of people ask me like, dude, were you freaked out when that was happening? And when something like that happens, I tell people that, it happens so fast that you don't have time to be scared. You just have time to react, So I'm just reacting. I'm like getting down low and just trying to keep my head down. But I remember this one thought in my head that I think I did write it in there, that I couldn't get out of my head this movie I had just seen 2 weeks ago on the computer called Saving Private Ryan. And there was a scene on the beach where they hit the beach, and the guys are coming out of the beaches of Normandy of the goats, and you can hear the pang, pang of the metal. And I'm driving, I'm like, dude, Steven Spielberg is amazing. It sounds just like that, seriously. I mean, who would have known? He would know what it's like when bullets tear through sheet metal and smash stuff, And so I pulled through the ambush, me and my guys, and they were limping on a rim so we could get as far away as we could from the horses and the camels that they were chasing us down with. And then I wasn't laughing anymore, thinking about that. And then reality kind of set in, and I was inspecting my truck to make sure it could still drive. And but there was one bullet that caught my eye in particular. There was a lot of bullet holes that I was kind of inspecting, but one went right through the back window of my Land Cruiser. And I could see the path of the bullet because it was going across this chlorine tablet box that was right behind my seat. And the bullet was going through the window in a straight line path, like for the back of my head. You know, my head or the back of my neck, like right towards me. And on the box, you could see right before it got to me, it took this, like it was going like this, and it just took a 90-degree turn and went that way. And I remember like looking at the bullet and being like bullets don't go like this. You know, if you've ever shot a gun, they go straight. You know, they don't curve. I know there's this one movie where they could curve them, but that's not really possible. I saw it on they shot it on Mythbusters, and it didn't work at all. So I don't know. I'm like freaking out. Like, how does this happen? And sure enough, I see the bullet dug in the side of the wall, like follow this line. And I kept it for a long time after that, because even though it shook me up quite a bit, I'm no Superman. They throw that term with CNN around a lot, that term hero. And I've reserved that term solely for the men and women that fight for our country. That's it. I'm not a hero like them. So I'm a man. I'm an individual that gets freaked out by stuff like that. And it took me a couple weeks to pull myself together a little bit, but I remember finding some comfort in that bullet. You know, I felt like maybe somebody was looking out for me. And maybe for the first time in my life, I'm actually on the right track, you know. So I was excited even from that to come home and keep doing Wine to Water. And then they all know right before I left, I had another situation that was a little bit even more difficult than that one to deal with emotionally. I had to bury one of my guys, Ismail. He didn't show up to work Saturday morning, which is unlike him. He's never late. And his brother comes and grabs my hand, and he's like, you know, Mr. Doc, you come with me. And he takes me to the edge of our village. Next thing I know, I'm picking up my friend Ismail from the back of their family truck. He's wrapped in linen. And his father and brothers, you know, are teaching me. They're giving me a shovel, and they're teaching me how to dig a grave according to Islamic culture and law. And all of it was just this whirlwind of emotion and just blur in my head. And I couldn't believe it. And I heard the story that he was on his way back into work, and that the Janjaweed pulled the bus over, and they were questioning everyone. They let everybody else back on the bus, but they kept out my friend Ismail, and they put him down on his face, and they executed him. And I just remember thinking, I couldn't help but feel like it was my fault, that it was something, that these were the same guys maybe that had stopped me before. They found out he was my guy or something, I don't know. But it really weighed heavy on me after that. And I left Darfur a couple weeks later, but I couldn't get out of my head why I was able to leave alive, and why this guy who was a father and a husband, you know, I had nothing to come back to. I hadn't been living with my parents for years. I hadn't have a wife and kids, nothing. Why is it that I get to come home and he didn't get to go home to his wife? And so that kind of stuck in my head for a while, and I probably would have given up Wine to Water. I was ready to just go back to playing cheesy Johnny Cash gigs and bartending. I probably would have done that had I not met my wife. I met her just a few days after coming home in the back of this kind of seedy bar back in North Carolina. There was like a local Leonard Skinner cover band playing, and I was craving some good old classic rock. You know, I don't know, that's probably not what everybody listens to now, but I love me some Leonard Skinner, and I love to sing me some Freebird. And I was in the corner of this place, and I was, you know, I was the weird emo guy in the corner that nobody was talking to, and I was singing to myself this song. I think Freebird had come on, and I'm like, I'm as free as a bird now, like doing that weird guy thing in the corner. And then next thing you know, this door opens at the other end of the bar, and this whole group of smoking hot girls walks in the door. And I was like, whoa, because I've been in the desert. I was in the desert for a year. And I'm like, whoa. And then I quickly realized, as every guy in this room will tell you, you never hit on a girl in a pack of girls. They are like a pack of wolves. They will tear you apart, limb from limb. So I was like, oh, I'm as free as a bird. I have no chance in hell that I could ever get one of these girls. And next thing I know, I'm kind of being that weird guy, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and I look over, and it's the smokingest, hottest one in the whole group. I'm not kidding. Go to my Facebook page. See my wife, smoking hot. She comes up, and she... She taps me on the shoulder. She's like, "Hi, my name is Amber. What's your name?" And I'm like, "My name's Doc. It's nice to meet you, Amber." She's like, "Oh, Doc, is that your real name? Are you a doctor or?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a doctor. Yes, it's not my real. Just call me Doc, you know." And she's like, "Well, what's your real name?" And I'm like, "Doc. Just call me Doc." You know, I'm trying to be a little cool, you know, whatever. And she goes, she did one of these numbers. She put her hands on her hips. She did, "What is your real name?" I'm like, "Lady, I just met you. How can you be demanding my real name, for God's sakes?" I'm like, "Oh, gosh. All right, look. When I was born, my parents, they named me Dixon after my granddaddy. And my sister, who was 2 years older than me, and she was just learning to talk at the time, she couldn't pronounce Dixon, so she called me Dick Doc. So for an ungodly amount of time, I was referred to as Dick Doc. Somewhere along the way, they chopped off the dick and they left the Doc. And that's how I got Doc, all right? It's not a cool story. I can't shoot like Doc Holliday or anything like that, you know. And she just laughed. She's like, "Well, I like Dixon better. I think I'm going to call you that." And we hit it off pretty quick, and from the beginning, you know, like one of those, I guess, cheesy Nicholas Sparks books that some of you girls like to read. But the most beautiful thing about her, other than the fact that she was smoking hot, but the most beautiful thing about her is that she had the ability to help me believe in myself when I didn't have the strength to do that anymore. And I think a lot of you will find this. For me, I found that not just coming home from a bad situation like Darfur, but even when I got Wine to Water going and we started growing and we started going to these other countries, there's other hardships that come in starting a nonprofit. There's other things that come. Just the paperwork it takes to actually get the official nonprofit. I didn't have the money to hire a lawyer to do those things like a lot of other, you know, maybe people that are more well off when they start their charities. I didn't have that. I had to do it paper by paper. It took me months, and I would send it in, and the IRS sends it right back. "Oh, you didn't sign your name properly on this line." Like, are you serious? I got to send it back in and wait more months. Like, I'm ready to quit, banging my head against a brick wall or the desk. I can't do it anymore. There's mornings I just didn't want to get out of the bed. I didn't feel like facing the day. And on those days, she'd be right there to encourage me and give me the little kick in the butt that I needed to keep going. And it's so important to have people like that, like Tasha that got me going in the beginning. In fact, without that kick in the butt from her, I would have never left the bar. I'd still be there right now. Without my wife encouraging me on the times when things get hard, I wouldn't be there. The team that I began to assemble around me with Wine to Water that helped make this work possible every single day, it's those people that keep all of us motivated, that keep me motivated, and we keep ourselves motivated. And it's so important for y'all. I think one thing, I really hope that y'all can go after your passion. Don't worry so much right now about what major am I going to study, what would my parents want me to do, which job am I going to get when I get out of college. Stop worrying about all that. Life's too short to make it about the bottom line and a job and what my folks want me to do. It's too short. Find the thing you're passionate about. Find something that you love to do that makes you want to get up in the morning and makes you want to face the day. Find that thing. And then you'll see your school and take a totally different turn because you'll start to see how your classes line up and how they help you do that thing better. And even when you got that, even when you're going at it hardcore, there's still going to be those days that you just don't want to do it anymore, where it sucks. And it's on those days, you've got to surround yourself with people that pull you along and pull you up instead of pull you down. I too long surrounded myself with people that pulled me down. I didn't need any more help. I was my hardest critic anyway, and they keep pulling me down. Life's so much more beautiful when on those days you have people around you that love you and support you and that want to see you accomplish your goals and your dreams. And now is the time to start surrounding yourself with those people. So for me, I want to finish up on I'm going to kind of breeze through because I know we don't have all the time in the world, but I'm going to talk through, we began to spread our work through Ethiopia. I met a group of orphans there that made this manual well drilling machine out of a pulley system and a rope and a broken down pieces of a vehicle. And I really got excited about that. We started working all over Ethiopia with this group of orphans. And then I met a guy in Cambodia who we built our own drilling machine together, and all the other organizations around Cambodia are drilling wells for about $2,500 a piece. And me and this guy, we do it for 5 times less the cost. We're drilling wells for less than $500 in Cambodia with this piece of junk machine. It breaks down like every week. But we made it out of local materials. So they hop on their little scooter and wait and go out to the market and find a little piece that they need when it breaks, and we fix it and we're up and running again. Local people, local materials is how we began to expand. We went into Uganda, we're making these things here. They're called biosand filters. A group of local Ugandans, local materials, finding that some places don't need new wells. They have plenty of water. They just need that water cleaned. So we started making these filters to clean that water. And then the last place, Haiti, I found a lady who was a ceramic artist. She loved pottery. She loved making different artwork with firing clay. And she found out how to take clay pots and turn them into water filters. We can clean water 99.999% clean with these. I met her on my way into Haiti. She was actually living in the Dominican Republic. And we were able, for $30, $35, I could take one of these filters and give it to a Haitian family that's just lost their home, like the one behind me here. And now she at least doesn't have to give her youngest children dirty water for the next 5 years for $30, $35. So we shipped over 2,000 of those after the earthquake, and then she agreed to help me create a Haitian factory run by Haitians. And now we're making almost 1,000 filters every single month, about 700, 800 filters every single month in Haiti from a bunch of Haitians there on the ground. We've grown from there now. I just was in Syria not long ago. That was our 15th country, and I was back in Colombia in the Amazon jungle a few weeks ago, actually, adding our 16th country. And I look back at this whole journey. 16 countries, almost 250,000 people in the world. And a lot of people ask me, do you feel like you've accomplished a lot, or do you sleep good, or are you proud of yourself for the work that you've done for other people? And in some ways, yes, I do think about the people that we've helped, but that's not the thing that's on my mind when I look over these last 10 years. This last picture kind of represents everything that I feel about the last 10 years of my life. I took this picture outside of one of the worst slums I'd been in. It's outside of Kampala, Uganda. It's basically a trash dump that these people like this woman and her daughter were living in. And I remember being there, this little trash dump, and seeing their little shanty shack that they had built inside this trash dump. And I remember just seeing this picture, seeing this scene, and I snapped a shot with my camera and just kind of laughing to myself, because it's so true. Every country I've been to, some of the worst places and the worst situations in the world, but this is what I see in all of them, not just here. This is the faces that I see on these women and these children and these people. Some of the hardest situations I've ever imagined that we would think here, gosh, these people must be miserable. Not only do they not have power and an iPhone and a car to get from point A to point B, they don't even have water. They live in a trash dump. They have to walk hours to get water, and then that woman has to bury her children, half of them, because of the water that they have to serve their children. But they still look like this. And so I think if I'm honest with you and I'm honest with myself, I feel like these people have given me infinitely more than I've ever been able to give them. They've really taught me what this life is all about, that it's not so much about the bottom line, and that it's all about the people that are in our lives that make this life worth living. And I hope that y'all can take that with you, that no matter what you do, whether you decide to get into type of humanitarian work or whatever job you decide to do, that what will make it worth it is the people you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis, the people that you start to meet right now, and the people that you have with you along the way. That's what makes this life worth living. So y'all, God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for having me.